So hello again, everyone. Especially warm welcome to anyone who's joined us for the first time, and a really warm welcome to anyone who's coming back from the previous webinars and other engagements with Affinity. I'm Giriraj, and today we are excited to talk to you more about what's happening in the world of identity management for the customer identity management particularly, and what are the new trends or compelling reasons which are shifting the directions, and how you can take advantage from the mature technology tools available and enable new experiences for your customers. We are hoping in this next 60 minutes you learn something new, something that helps you as a developer mostly, but also as product managers and business managers on how you are interacting with your customers, and how you can create differentiated value. So let's just jump right in. I'll let Rajesh introduce himself quickly. Hi, Rajesh.
Hey, hi everyone. So this is Grajesh, a lead solution architect at Affinity. I look over the Affinity products that we are building over, and with the customer facing role, I've been enjoying all the discussion with the customer as of now.
Awesome, awesome. So we generally work with customers to bring tangible value from the products that we are building at Affinity, and as well as wider tech breadth and depth. Rajesh specifically brings in a lot of experience on identity management. So we're excited and thrilled to talk to you more about that today. Just because we get asked a lot of time, I'll just put this out there that you'll get the access to the recording later on our website. We'll definitely do a Q&A at the end. We'll leave time for that. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please put them on the chat. We have the team, Affinity, Shrida here from marketing, and Sanjay also from the solution architecture team, who's available to answer the question while we go through the discussion. And yes, we'll also have certificate of attendance, which will be shared on your email in the next few days. So that what we will be covering today is general trends, just getting everybody level set on what do we mean by customer identity management. And I'll encourage you to also put in the chat what you think, what you want to take away from this session today, and we'll see if we can cover, we can adapt as we go along. But generally, it's a very loaded term of customer identity management. I think everything around customers' data preferences, how do you interact with it, is coming under that. We'll uncover some bits of that. We'll also look at pressing challenges in the ecosystem as we've gone into a decade or more of digital life. More and more lives have moved online. Then how are there any reasons for us to change, or we can continue the way we were doing now? Specifically, the role of biometrics in customer authentication, identity management. We'll dive deep into that. And then we'll also share with you some new ways of doing familiar things. I think technology adoption happens when we can meet every developer where they are today and then give them new ways to innovate. And this is what exactly our approach at Affinity is. And we will be sharing more on the open standards, technology underneath it. You'll learn something new, not just from Affinity, but in general about what's happening in the tech industry. And then we'll show you how, if you want to implement it in your applications, how Affinity tools can help you do it faster. We'll show you some demonstrations of this, not just slideware. So you'll see how it will work in the real life, how you can utilize these tools in your application, no matter what language runtime you prefer as a developer. And we'll leave you with some resources. I'm sure time is short. We cannot cover a lot, but for other questions that you may have and the other ways to reach out to us, we'll leave some information there, and then we'll interact. There's also going to be a quiz at the end on our Discord server. I'll, during the process, share the Discord channel link. I would encourage you to hang on and join the Discord channel quiz right after this webinar. There's some cool prizes for the fastest finger first that our team has put together. But that's more just to have fun and make sure this learning was useful and we were able to deliver some value to you for your time. So thanks again for joining. Let's just jump right into it. So when we talk about digital experiences, I think everything starts with knowing who's on the other side, both for you and the customer. More for the brands and the businesses to know who's on the other side, because ultimately you're trying to serve them, serve their needs, find the solutions for their problems through your products, through the services that you're offering. And if you don't know them, how are you going to serve them better? So first thing, you want to know who's on the other side. And usually we start with something like, hey, phone number or email, but that's doesn't explain who I am. It just gives you an identifier, typically to contact me back, right? Like you think I would drop off in the journey sometime, and then you can reach out to me again and say, hey, you started the journey. Can you tell us why you did not continue? Or here's another reason for you to continue. So foundation of our businesses depend on knowing who's on the other side. And for you organization, that's why it's all everything about the customer, on how they manage their registration information, login information, their data, their aspects, their attributes, their user profile, uh, so that they can either immediately create value for the customer, or along the way, as they build relationship, you can create more value for the customer. And if I'm the head of customer experiences at an organization, I think the top questions in my mind will be, am I keeping my customer data safe? Is it easy for my customers to access all the services that I have? Maybe I have many web applications, many mobile applications, or different services. How are they able to seamlessly cut across all this and have a very frictionless experience? As well as how am I managing the data exchange? Like, am I on the right side of history? They doing data exchange ethically? Do I have the consent for them to consent from them to use their data to exchange and create value for them? But what if I'm the customer? What do you think is the customer thinking when they think about the term identity management? I believe they just want a seamless customer experience. For them, it's like, I want to know you personally. I am interacting with you. I want to get personalized experience, whether it's on digital or when I go to a physical store. If I have done business with you, you should know about me. So they just want to have this happy, ongoing relationship with you, so that they can extract most value and their time is saved, right? They get what they want quickly. So is it hard to do, like building the right customer experience for your customers? I think with the shift of our lives mostly online, now there's a lot of information about the consumers available, I think more than ever before. And because of that, it also creates opportunity and challenges. Because to serve your customer now, how do you get all the information that you need to be able to serve them better, which could be demographics information or their behavioral information or their shopping preferences, depending on what kind of business you are in. And where is this data? Like if you and I are a consumer, where is our data? Is it in one system? Is it in one place that we can easily provide access to other businesses in exchange for value? It's usually very hard. Like I may have shopped for a t-shirt in one place and I want to shop for a trouser or jeans in another place. They would not know these aspects about me, but I may be doing it for one common goal of attending a party at a friend's house. So these things are fragmented. Like my information is fragmented. My preferences are likes, dislikes are fragmented because they're all in multiple systems. So one, it's harder for me to organize all of this information together. And so how do I even expect the brands to know, or the businesses that I work with to know what I really want? And this leads to our current state, right? Where we are. We want to make sure we understand customers as best as we can. And this is where the third party cookie tracking helps businesses. They don't want to be evil typically, but they also don't want to be in your face and ask you 100 questions to give you the right kind of offers that you might be looking for. And that leads to also some different innovative ways of figuring out, without being in your way, can we understand more about you to serve the consumer better? But then the trade-off is, for convenience, we traded off privacy, or we traded off our data being used without our knowledge. And more, we see the shift is happening towards consumers demanding more transparency on why you're asking what kind of data, as well as the shift in compliance landscape, trying to protect the consumer from any abuse or misuse of their data. Uh, and this gives rise to, like, you can't just really guess what the customer wants. Maybe you have to come up with some new ways of exactly asking what the customer wants. And this is the conundrum if you and I are solving customer identity for in our businesses as developers, as business owners. How do I provide the best customer experience, the most personalized journeys, serve them exactly, give them a tailored experience that they want, while being transparent with them on what amount of data I need from you, collect that data, and not make it a very intrusive process that makes it harder for customer to share. right? So we want more data to deliver more value. Customers, we found that will share more data to get that value, but obviously nobody would likes to go through multiple clicks and complete that journey. So my question really is like, can we find that right balance? And maybe Rajesh, you can talk us through of how to find this right balance.
Sure, Giri. So thanks, Giri. I'll pick up where Giri left off. So let's start from the very first interaction that we have in the digital world, that is sign in and sign ups. We already have we today's digital experience require a digital account for each application. These accounts use different ways of authentication. Like some use password, some use federated SSO using OAuth or OIDC, and some use an additional factor of authentication on top of the password, which is called multi-factor authentication using OTP or TOTP, etc. There are other ways of authentication like passwordless, like a magic link, which you get in your secure email. Once you click on that email, it will take you to the application and you experience there is no password there. You are getting authenticated and you're logged into the system. There are ways where the code is presented on the phone, or there is a prompt on the phone, or for to share the code, and then you put it in the code and you get into the application. A new era has evolved with the passwordless authentication, with the cryptography and the cryptographic keys. As a developer, which method would you use as identity mechanism in your application? I would like you to comment on the chat and you let us know what you feel is a more secure way of doing authentication. In today's session, we will learn how a developer like you can implement a no password solution, a no password in password manager, a true passwordless solution. We will also discuss how cryptographic key allow application server to register and authenticate user using public key cryptography instead of a password. In today's world, if you wanted to log into any of the system, you key in your username and a password to authenticate. And you keep doing the same thing again and again on the different website. And you end up creating multiple identities on their servers. With fast forward, we have seen this change has moved to a federated system where you log in with Google, you log in with Facebook, you log in with Twitter, where website trusts the identity provider and does the authentication. While what we have seen this, the innovation has focused on enhancing the use of password. It make it convenient to use password, but it did not replace the password. We need to build a memory, a muscle memory to remember all those passwords. But do you really need build a system with a password? Do you really think we should need a password? Unless there is a regulation says you need to have a strong password. But again, that can be subject to changes. It gives us an idea of safety, but it is not a reliable mechanism to manage customer identity completely. Passwords are hard to remember, and hence we tend to reuse it, which makes it weak form of authentication. Also, it's been widely reported that password breach is one of the most common reason for identity theft, leading to the loss of reputation and trust with the customer. I personally don't like password in digital world. I have to remember a lot of password, and it's easy to see. You can see about the reports like how this thing help you gain to the identity theft. Although recovering a password, or let's say resetting a password, seems very simple, it is very costly affair for the enterprises to help you provide the tools to regain the access to your account. As per the IDC Affinity Consumer Identity Management Survey 2023, there is a shift in consumer expectation as well as where user would choose to do business with the brands that manage their data safely. Fragmented identity hampers user experience. We have seen 58% of consumers seek more data control, whereas 79% of consumers prefer maximum 3-step for availing any online services. And that would impact your user experience on your any digital world. So this rise to what is the current challenges in the current approach. We have seen various challenges implementing an identity management solution since identity management landscape has grown to a vast extent. We have an issue of scalability. Why? Since you have already implemented different version, you have given an option to login via Google or login via Facebook or login via username or password, you still has to, and you have to still remember those password. But what we have seen from the reports that today digital experience require more solution like your frictionless onboarding, personalized experience, and more control over their data. And imagine if I wanted to have, let's say, an identity details from Google, but I wanted to have a preference detail from Facebook. You cannot do it today. While you have enabled that feature, but you still have that problem today. And that's where we are seeing there is no scalability. There is a problem of scalability in this identity model. This also raises a security threat. Like I mentioned, passwords are weak. Password can be stolen by phishing tool, or password can be leaked online if a website that have account get compromised. They have to worry about all about creating and remembering password without dedicated password manager. Development of or a developer try to manage as securely as possible in their system, but they have to need a secure storage to do secure storage of having a secure password management. And like I said, data is in center of everything. So, and user wanted to understand which which aspect of details is shared to which application. And increasing government regulation like GDPR, your DPDPA, and your CCPA, there is more emphasis on the data which is in the digital ecosystem. They wanted to understand, they wanted to help reduce the privacy, help reduce the security, or reduce the privacy of the system. And that's where a new requirement come in a picture, which is your consent manager.
So
That, yeah,
Rajesh, I think one part you're saying is that identity and data are together, right? Like, so when I say digital identifier, typically some people may think of email as an identifier or phone number as an identifier. And while you're talking about authentication, which is the first part of the journey, but it also means not just my identifiers, but all information about me, my likes, dislikes, my order history, my employment records, my education history. All of this is information about me, which I usually want to share in a contextual way for the transaction
yeah.
that I'm doing. And today it's all because of it's all over the place. There's no easy way to share this information.
That's perfectly correct, Giri. And
Mhm.
that's why I'm saying customer onboarding is broken today. Customer need more privacy and security of their data while doing sign up, sign in, or any of the onboarding in the system.
Mhm.
There is a famous saying which says, what you here won't get you there by Marshall Goldsmith. So what do? There is a missing piece of this puzzle. The whole problem started where the enterprise started storing the details of you, whereas you should be the center of all the transaction. The customer, the consumer, the user should be the center of all the transaction. When you empower the customer and build your customer experience with an active participation and share the purpose of data with them, they share the relevant aspect of their identity with you. But why is something that is so hard, so fundamental to hard to implement? Why cannot we have all our identities in one place? Why cannot we imagine that application log into me instead me log into the application? Is that technology is not there yet, or we don't have the tools and techniques to facilitate this? The world is moving very rapidly, and then we have already seen the password is weak. So world is moving towards the cryptographic keys. Now, while this time I have mentioned cryptographic key multiple times, so let's understand what is cryptography and cryptographic keys. The public key cryptography was invented in 1970 and was a solution to a problem of shared secret. It is a pillar of modern internet security. For an example, every time we do connect to an HTTP website, a public key transaction takes place. Public key cryptography use concept of a key pair, a private key that's stored securely with the user, a public key that can be shared with the server. These keys are long, random number and have a mathematical relation with each other. With the help of private key, you can share an attested data and share a scoped verifiable credential. We have already moved from, moved in the authentication pyramid. We started with what you know with a password, where you always have the knowledge of your digital account and a password, to the era where you have a possession of your device. So including your password along with your device, you know who you have. But actually, if you wanted to transact in digital world today and you wanted to understand who you are on the right side, that's where the cryptography will come in a picture along with the device, and a device and your biometric will come in a picture, and that will help you make you in a digital world. And cryptography can help you prove who you are in the digital world. But you may ask, any real uses of experiencing biometric as a part of customer onboarding? We have already seen, we have used multiple applications which you use biometric, like your phone banking application, right? Whenever you open, you just touch your thumb and you get logged into the application. They use a trusted certificates within the system to hold the details of your data in a secure enclave. We have been asked multiple times what exactly, how it is secure, and how biometric can help understand, or how cryptography play a bigger role here. So let's understand here with a picture. We have three actors in it. We have a user space, which is the app, and they're the security framework within the app, the operating system of the device, and a secure enclave where all your biometric detail, your credential detail, your key details are saved. When you store something like in your private key in a keychain where you store all the detail, you also dictate the terms on which the item can be accessed later. You can tell the keychain service, like every time when you try to read them, you seek an authentication or you seek an permissions to use that. For example, you ask for a biometric by face ID or like a touch ID. You rely on both on the security and the local framework to enable this behavior. To access keychain item in general, you use keychain service, which is within the security framework of your application. And as and when a keychain service requires any new details, it asks the local authentication framework to present the interface to the user. Once the local interface is presented, you ask to put your fingerprint or a face ID, which is then validated with the secure enclave, which is stored all onto your secure enclave. The biometry, the credential, the key management, they matches the detail what you have presented. And if that presentation request is true, you will able to access those keychain. No user space or operating system has access to any of the authentication system. The third block you see is completely secure for your users.
So Brajesh, I think what you're saying is that these devices that we use already have hardware and already have communication mechanisms to safely organize my keys. And
Yes.
when I might have used it, we probably did not realize, a lot of people did not realize how it works under the hood. But that's where the memory space is separate for just the key signing or key encryption part, then your application software. And
Yes.
with unlocking, you're just saying with finger bioprint, I'm unlocking access to the keys to sign or encrypt anything.
Exactly.
And any operation that require my keys, I can create a private key. I can create a key pair, put the private key in my device, and then start leveraging that in applications. So this is what it means to
Yes.
developers.
That's correct, Giri.
Okay.
So now what we have seen is, like, there is a technology exists for your mobile apps or your tablets where you can use your biometric. But there is a new specification already exists, which is called WebAuthn. This is a standard modern online authentication combining high security with simple and easy user experience. The web authentication is a browser-based API specification that enables users to an online service using the biometrics. This protocol is an extension of your credential management API that enables strong authentication with public key cryptography and enable password authentication with secure multi-factor without SMS or text. This is something given by with W3C and FIDO and other organizations like Google, Mozilla, Microsoft, and Ubico. This allows server to register, authenticate using public key cryptography instead of a password. So just we'll see a demo how exactly it works. You can see my screen properly?
Yes.
Okay. So this is playground for WebAuthn. So WebAuthn is like something you wanted to share, let's say, Grajesh meetup, or let's say Grajesh webinar, and I registered my device within any of the available, let's say, iCloud keychain, a phone, uh, a different phone or a tablet or a security key, or let's say Chrome profile for a timing, let's say Chrome profile. I'll just continue is I'll use my biometric and now success. Now, when I try to authenticate with this same pass key, it will ask me with my biometric and will say, okay, show me. You present me the detail. Now, underlying the hood, you can see there is a credential which is already created, which is a device-bound pass key. The uses of this key is only internal and is only work on Chrome for this map, and the ID is there. So as and when you try to log in again, you have to just give this name, webinar. And if you try to authenticate, use your biometric, and voila, you already logged in. If you wanted to see what are the various details that you have, so you can always go to your password manager. There is settings, there is a key, and you can see there is a pass key already created within it. Similarly, you can do it for all your mobile or other web browser or anything else. If I revoke this, so let's say if I have to remove this one.
Okay.
Let me revoke this one. Now, if I try to do it, see, there is no unrecognized credential ID. And I can also revoke it from that other side.
So Rajesh, I think what you went through was two main operations, right? One is first time registration. We're just creating any username, associating that with a private public key pair. You're creating a key pair for this website to authenticate with webauthn.io. And the next time when you go to log in, authenticate, you're just able to scan the fingerprint on the device sensor, and that makes it all magical. But within there is the whole operation of a challenge response that happened because of that private key that you had, and that's how the other side could trust that there is a human being in
Correct,
possession of this device interacting with you. But whatever you typed in as a username, Rajesh underscore, that's not verified, right? Like that's
It's
just
not, the username is never verified across any of the system. It's a proof of you being a person who holds the key and who shares the attested data within the system.
Yeah, no, that's even good. I think so. To start with, if any use case requires just, hey, I want any application that the developers here want to build, they can go through the spec here, understand WebAuthn, implement the
Yeah.
server side functionality. Client side, every one of us will have devices, phone or laptops, which if they have biometric sensor, we can create private public key pairs and we can enable passwordless authentication in the application. At least the username password should go away. Like there's no reason to see another username password box on any application anymore if this
Yeah.
is a properly adopted protocol. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said, why do we need a system with a password when you can build a stronger, a strong, secure system without a password? So this is one of the way we can use it. So what are the other things that you wanted to, enable within your system? What if you need a more verified customer identities as well? So in today's world, what we have seen, there all the details which is there are fragmented across different systems. And what we have seen there is if there is a data store where I can accumulate everything, we can easily share whatever the details which is there, and that data store can be managed by me. So in decentralized system, we turn this upside down. User data will be stored in his or her own personal data store. And since most of you are developer, you might have a lot of questions asking, what is this personal data store? How do I store data in that data store? What are the schema that we have to use? How do I retrieve all those data? The beauty of this decentralized tech is that there are protocols and open standards which defines how the data model should look like. and how the data should be transferred between the system. And we'll talk more about this within some time. Your digital verifiable credential are objectively better, cheaper, faster, more reliable, and more private. And they involve the individual as an active participant. The customer themselves hold the data. They can selectively share what they need, when they need, and whom they need to. In today's world, user is the API. So whatever we have seen till now from the WebAuthn, it's proved the validation of or position of your device. However, it does not allow user to share the data in a secure and a trusted way. Hence, a new protocol is developed, that is OID for VP, which is an open standard presented in liaison with Decentralized Identity Foundation and OpenID provider, and allows user to share the data in a secure and a trusted way. Affinity login is built on OID for VP, which understand a language called Presentation Exchange PEX, where the user can share the requested credential in JSON LD format and verify the verifiable presentation on the fly using the public key presented, and it present back the claims to the application. So we have seen the change in the paradigm shift in the identity archetype. Now we have moved from a centralized to a decentralized identity type. Decentralized identity is fully interoperable and verifiable, where user has the private key. Anyone can access the public key to validate or authenticate the user. And the handshake that happen is done through an open standard. With this, Affinity is helping to make the life of developer and consumer easier and frictionless with their product. Introducing holistic identity, which gives you everyone 360-degree view of themselves online while consumer remain in control of their data. This allows consumer to discover, collect, store, share, and monetize in the digital realm. The Affinity Vault act as consumers' personal data store, where they store all kind of data. It acts as a holistic identity store where consumer can view their 360-degree view of themselves. A credential manager where they can hold all their credential system and they manage what credential that I have to do. A decentralized agent means your data is interoperable. It's an open system where your data can be interoperate between systems who understand the same language in an open standard format. It is also become your consent manager, because then you will understand what data I have to present, to whom I have to present, and why I have to present. And based upon your consent, you always knew what data you have shared. And this also becomes your cryptographic server provider, where you have a key pair, and this key pair can be an open source, and it is not bound to any of the system. To bring the holistic identity vision to life, we at Affinity is building something called Affinity Trust Network, which is a suite of products. We have talked about Affinity Login, which is a passwordless authentication solution, uses OID for VP as an open standard, and which provide one-click check-in, one-click sign-in, sign-up, and onboarding. We talked about Affinity Vault, which is which is a user-controlled storage, which gives you 360-degree view of yourself. You have Affinity Connector, which enables to ingest details on your vault. For example, if you enable Spotify connector, you can pull the music preferences in your vault. You have Affinity Concierge. Consider this is as a personal GPT on your personal chat GPT on your personal data. You have Affinity Messaging, which is provide a secure way of communication. And you have Affinity Elements. It is a fully managed tech stack built on open standard and does all the power lifting for all the developer, and built with a serverless architecture.
So Brajesh, I think what you're referring here is that a tool for everybody on the internet, right? We all everybody else has signature keys and they could sign DocuSign, but we as users could not sign every transaction that we were doing. Now you're saying with key managers on my device, I can save a key, I can sign any transaction through who I am. Exactly. And then with that, I can also get data which is attested. So I can get my university degree certificate or in a machine readable format, and then share it for a transaction. And all of that, like login, which is passwordless authentication, just 2 clicks that you showed on WebAuthn like experience. Same way I can share any data about me, option possibly, like
Yeah, yeah.
Another use case,
True.
but it's
So
like offline.
it's a strong convergence of security and consent and your convenience. So if you can see, any website can request for any of the details where Affinity Vault can come in place, share whatever detail is requested, sign it with their own private key, and the intermediary can validate on the fly and share the scopes and claims for with that application.
So
So with this, I'll just yeah, Giri was saying something.
I think as you bring up your demo, I think one part when you say that the common question we get asked, right? So if I store all my data in the vault, where is the vault? So
Okay,
that data with somebody is a data.
and I would just start doing the experience from there. So we have a multiple form factor of vault, but we'll start with what we have as of now as a Chrome extension. So when you go to Chrome Web Store, we have Affinity Vault. You can always add this to your uh, browser. Now browser will have all your, okay, now it is added. Now immediately it will pop up, say set up your Affinity Vault. This vault is user controlled, and it is onto the user's device. It is neither controlled by Affinity, neither the transaction is being seen by Affinity, neither Affinity holds any data about user here, because this is completely user controlled system. So when I start set up the Affinity Vault, I'll just first start with, let's say, the webinar @affinity.com. You can just check the
So with this operation, you're proving control over that email address, like
email address, exactly.
that OTP
Like,
code.
like, like you mentioned last time, we are not authenticating the user. The username is not getting authenticated. I am but sharing my verifiable credentials there.
Okay, so this by this process, you'll create an attested data,
Yes.
which is signed digital document where now if you present, anybody can understand that you had control of this email at this particular time.
Yes. Now I have created a pin kind of a passphrase, and I can explore my vault. So these are the details. I have, settings where I can, if I have any, if I have any desktop app, Affinity desktop app, which is, then I can use my profile to unlock using biometric as well. And in personal detail, you can see my email is verified. I can put all other details. Similarly to personal information, I can put any of the details. For now, just see what exactly it is. So what I'm going to show is we have a developer portal where you can do all registration of your OIDC client, just like you do in the real world. Today, you registered your details. You register your application within your OIDC client, and you get some details about your issuer, your client ID, and a client secret. Now, once I do that, I have this Affinity portal which help me do all those operations. So I'll just create, there is a service called Affinity Login. There you have to go and create, let's say, webinar test. And I have an application where and you're gonna put all other detail. If I have to show some presentation detail, this is a by default where I'm only asking an email address, and I'll just save it out.
Yeah, for somebody who joined us for the first time, the details of this we have covered in the previous webinar, which is also available on our website. And the documentation is also very exhaustive, but just in the interest of time for this webinar, we're not going to the details of the PEX query, but feel free to ask us on the chat. We can share more information other than the Q&A section.
Now, once I store this, I got three details. Now let's go to our application and see what exactly it is. So I'll go to my config. I'll update my config details. By the way, this credential will be deleted post the webinar, so you'll not be able to use it.
So Brajesh, here what you're doing is your application is nothing special, right? It's any typical application with an OIDC library. and you are just configuring an OpenID Connect provider, which happens to be Affinity login. So as there were a few questions, I think Pankaj asked something, how can their application be extended to leverage this biometric based authentication? So in this case, if somebody is using any OIDC compliant library in their application, they can just add this to the steps that you're doing. Nothing more in their application has to change.
No.
Okay.
So it is just like a normal application. It's just don't go by the UI. It has just simple to just showcase the art of possibility, how you can integrate and how you can share data details, everything along with the system. So now if you can see, if there is something called, there are unrestricted page, there are protected page, there are private page, there are some invisible pages available there. So let's see what happens to when I do a login. So this configuration only asks me for email address. When I allow this asks me to complete the registration, which is a typical process of any application which does today. Currently, this is pretty simple. I'm just using few of the details and everything, and I complete the registration. I can see the application as of now, and it will be pretty much okay. You have a login information. But when you try to go and see any restricted page, you are not allowed to see it. We'll get to understand more how exactly we can do it. But there are some protected page you can see, but there are some endpoint which say you are authenticated. This is the way you understand application, how you do it. So once you get authenticated, you can see a part of things which is allowed for a public view, not the protected or the private view. Okay, so
what you showed, Rajesh, just because if there are developers and other functions as well on the webinar, is by design a very clunky user interface so that you can focus on just the basics. But any application, if it's an e-commerce application, it's a travel application, they can start integrating Affinity login if they have an IDC library.
Yeah.
And it can be a choice where user enters through their vault, which is installed on their Chrome extension, where their data proof of email is on the edge in this case. And with the data that is digitally signed, they're able to establish trust with the application.
So with Affinity Vault, Giri, we can manage and share all the data with the consent and the privacy enabled way. And this allow businesses to unlock a wealth of valuable information and drive innovation as well. In simpler terms, if I say a consumer have a greater control on the data, and if I choose to share more detail, there will be trust that they develop with the businesses. And as more as the trust goes, I can share more data on the later journey point of the time.
So any of these consumer privacy laws which says you have to share the purpose of
exactly
transparently with the user and ask them exactly what you are asking them to share, and then they give their consent, and then they should be available so that you only use the data for that purpose, can be transparently implemented using Vault so Affinity Login also serves as a consent management tool there for authentication when you just ask for that data.
Okay. Now, what we have seen from the today's social login, like your identity provider does two things. One, it holds the identity of the user, and second, it shares the detail once user is authenticated and share as a claim like who you are and what's your first name, last name, etc., etc., etc. Now, what happens with the Affinity login is we have divided the role of identity provider to just only do a transport. The ownership is lying with the Affinity user who holds the Affinity vault. You share that, you request for a detail, the user, the user share the presentation back, signed by their own private key, which is verified, and then the all your identity provider can share the access token or the ID token and the claims back to the application. So these are the two different things that we have, envisioned for the identity provider today. And this goes beyond the authentication. There is authorization as well. You can always do a machine to machine, flow is possible. You can always do a role-based access control. You can manage, or you You can write a policy which you can restrict users to allow any of the access. You can do a permissions check with any of the other details. So you can also enable a checkout or fulfillment based upon whatever details available in your Affinity vault. So I'll just show you exactly how the vault look like if I have to do this thing. Now, is it screen is shared, right?
Yeah, we can see your application screen again, browser, now VS Code.
Correct. So let's try and understand what details as of now, you have seen my application ask me first name, last name, and other details. So let's populate that. Let's say first name, last name. I don't need, I am asking for a nickname. Let's say Rajesh on webinar. And let's save it. Now I'll go to the Affinity portal. I will edit this configuration. Earlier, I was asking for only email. I'll ask few more details. Let's say I'll ask all the 3 details that we have. I'll showcase exactly.
So while Rajesh is doing that, it's basically a query language. Again, a standard, open standard on how you ask for a digital signed data when you don't know who's the issuer. You may just know the type of the schema and the attributes in there. With that, it could be shared as a self-signed document by the holder, or it could be issued by some third party, let's say my university who issues me a certificate. So more details on that, I think it's we can share to the specs. Yeah. Go ahead, Rajesh.
I don't know, something happened. I'll edit this. So probably timeout. Yep. So now if I run my application again, yeah. Now the first time what you have seen, I have to manually type in all the details for onboarding. As of now you can see I have my verified email available and I have a self-attested detail which is requested by my application. Once I give my consent to this, it will automatically populate all the details which is there. Only you have to just do an agree and you complete the registration. The user need not to write or put the again and again. So what you have already seen that I have created my verifiable credential once, your email ID, but I'm reusing it again and again for other purpose or the same purpose. If I wanted to go to any other application, I can also go and use the same details again and again. Now, let's see how the role-based access control works. So we have different roles in the application. So how this will work. So I'll go to Affinity portal and let's see, I wanted to, create some group and ask a user for an admin role. And let's see, how do I do it? So I'll go to the groups. I'll go to my Affinity vault. I'll see the DID of the user and I'll just go here, I'll add the DID and then now if I log out and log in again, so just watch this tab. I've been asked to present these all details. No more onboarding is required because I've already done the onboarding. On successful sign up, you can see another tab which is up here, which is your user manager. And you can see I have logged in second time, my registration is complete. My first name is this, my nickname is this. I'm a member of group admin and a users group. And if I click to manage those groups, since I'm an admin, I can do all the user management stuff here. Let's take one more example. What exactly we can do? We can go there, we can create, and let's say some group called Platinum, which only a Platinum member can view. I can go and add the same user again. And now let's see how the experience look like. I've been asked for again. If I don't want to, if I want, let's say if I have to allow the access for this, I can always do a checkbox there, and you can do. Now you can see another tab is enabled for this because this is only meant for a Platinum user. So you can always go there and perform as per your requirement. So as of now, what I see, I have an access to a Platinum group and access to an admin group, and I'm a normal user which I logged into a system. So this is how you perform a role-based access control. Now, what else we can do is like, let's say you wanted to, control your environment for some time and you wanted to block some user. So you can always go there. Let's say I wanted to block this user. I don't want my, I don't want to, I don't want to enable this system for a few user, or let's say, I don't want to enable only for a closed user. In that case, you can also block this user. And if I try to log in now, it will throw me an error. It will request for the details. And by the way, you can, let's say you trust this application more than once, you can always allow this access to the user. And it won't ask the consent again. So you can see this is not denied because I have already blocked the users of this user on this application. Let's unblock this user and see what exactly it is. I can then unblock this user. And now if I log into the application, now you see there will be no more consent stream coming up because I've already given the consent, like I trust this application. You logged in without my consent. So these all features comes as a one-stop repository for any of the developer who do the user management stuff in the application. And when you try to do Affinity Vault, so you can always see the history, what all details you have shared, and when did you allow that access to this application. You can always back up all the details, and you can always keep it in the, if you wanted to delete any of the vault, you can always delete it.
Yeah,
If
thanks.
it's,
I think there's a lot of stuff, and
yes.
if we had more time, we'll go through all in detail as well. But if you have any question, feedback, suggestion, please share that with us after the webinar as well. A lot of this information is available in the documentation. So, yeah.
Yes, so what we have seen is a user is the API. In summary, we have all only explored authentication. Nevertheless, a concept that we have discussed today is digital credential or attested data sharing. I would say trust is an eye of beholder. Okay. If you wanted to have a password to establish shared trust only, so your strong authentication is not required. You can use password as in this, and you use magic link that we have discussed, password with. But if you have some use case where you wanted to authenticate uh, shared knowledge along with level of authentication with the device, you can use WebAuthn like example. And if you wanted a high degree of assurance, a frictionless experience where you wanted to verify the user, you don't need a password, and you wanted to verify the device as well, and you wanted to have a tested data as well, then you use our Affinity login, which is a passwordless biometric authentication for strong authentication. And you have device authentication already inbuilt with it. With this, I just hand over to Giri for further.
Yeah, thanks, Rajesh. So, what we've seen so far, just to recap, in the last 55 minutes or so, that where we started the journey, to serve the customer, we need to know them better, and they have different aspects about themselves. If we can get access to that, I think as businesses and brands, we can serve them more tailored journeys. The challenges we saw, because this information is fragmented, identity and the customer data, Also, along with the part that the starting journey typically is password based, which is not the safest way to establish trust, as well as new requirements and emerging awareness about the customer asking for a very transparent, purpose driven, consent based data sharing. All that I believe very strongly that we can solve it with a tool given in the hand of the consumer directly, put the customer directly in the center of it, right? Where it belongs. Let the consumer organize their discover, collect, store their data in the vault so that they can easily share. And if it's built on open standards and interoperable handshake, it can unleash more innovation. The vault can act like a data store, which allows them to exchange data, or like a credential manager or a consent manager as well, acting on their behalf when they need to be. There's more to Affinity Trust Network. I'd encourage you to really discover the different aspects about it through the developer portal and the CLI tools that we've enabled. Start with login, experience the vault, and then there is more capabilities in the Elements API backend to really meet you where your application is as a developer. So I'm hoping you learned something new, and at least we can kill passwords after this session. There's really no space for passwords in the world anymore, I believe. So passwordless is the future which you can enable with Affinity Login. And interestingly, it actually is more efficient, right? Because it also serves as a multi-factor authentication because you have biometric and the key, cryptographic keys replaced password, and my biometric authentication unlock that. So just with one action, I'm actually doing improving two aspects about myself. So I have a tested data as well as a device that I am in control of, plus that I am the only person who had authorized access to that device. So please, as you build more application, I'm hoping you're already in this journey, or talk to us if you need if we can help you accelerate that journey of putting customer in the center, request consent for any exchange of value, create differentiation. I think the market, because the consumers are demanding it, whoever provides them the safety of their data, I think consumer will shift their business towards that. So don't be the disrupted, be the disruptor, be the dreamer, be the believer in the new emerging technologies to make it happen, and then learn from the first few pilots and implementation. And the good thing is it can coexist with your existing investment. It's a low barrier to entry to try out these products and solutions, and you can implement rapidly, so it doesn't take too much of your time. So for holistically managing customer identity, you can even imagine new experiences, right? Why should you be doing this? So imagine somebody starts their journey online, goes to offline, and it goes to a pet store and wants to share what kind of pets they have and what problems the pets have. And you can just provide the store manager in the physical store can recommend the right products, right? So why does recommendation have to be limited to digital? Why can't it be in the physical one-on-one experience as well? And as well as my data, if I carry with me along, why is that I can only get personalized experience on one application about what they know about me? If somebody else has a better way of delivering value, can we just leapfrog and just get to that point where I bring the data to the application? The application is just an IP hub, which provides a real value delivery, not just look at my data, me as a product. So with that, I hope you take away that we have to build trusted relationship for long-term engagement with our customers to keep their data safely. And that's the customer identity management, where customers in the center and they share the data with consent, allowing us to build personalized journeys. And you can start with Affinity Login. And we're building many more features, many more things to come very soon in our stack. So keep engaging with these webinar meetups and looking at our documentation of what's coming. And this is the right investment for being on the right side of a history by making consent as a first-class citizen on your app. And there is both parts, I would say. For businesses, it's a more efficient way of doing things. Anything you do with paper can be removed. Anything you want to have a transitive trust instead of B2B API, you can integrate with the consumer. And for technical folks, I would say just learn by doing, start a pilot or a POC, and let us know how it goes. If there's any way we can help, we'll be very delighted to support you in that journey. So yeah, we leave you the links to the resources. I'll try to take few questions. The new features, new announcements, please browse and access that. Give us a session feedback that will help us. Let me take few questions at this point. Is there any unanswered question? I think somebody raised.
We've got most of them answered, but there is a specific question on overhead of using Chrome extension for an e-commerce setup, which might lead to user drop-offs compared to an OTP-based login. So would you like
Yes.
to comment a little bit on the Web Vault, Giri, before we move on?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So there, I completely agree and understand could be a friction there, but we have different form factors depending on different use cases and customer needs. For some Chrome extension is sufficient for that use case. Maybe a client-less Web Vault experience where actually it's just a URL. You don't have to install anything, and you can still experience that same experience, same features without installing anything. The data still remains on the edge device in that process. Love to share more with you. If you can just reach out to us over an email. With the information should be published on our website very soon by next week. So so you can even if it's a mobile app and you want a native experience, that's a different workflow. So the Vault will be a app on your Android or iOS, and it can enable that consent-driven exchange like your data store. So yes, we can meet you wherever the form factor makes sense for your use case. Let's work together to figure out what is the problem that we're trying to solve and how is there the right amount of data that's in the Vault, what kind of experience you want to build on top of that. We'd love to talk more about that.
I see some hand raised, so if anybody wanted to come on speaker and wanted to ask some question, happy to.
I think we've answered most of our questions in the chat.
Yeah, if there is no more questions, I think people had hand raised. If they can unmute, happy to take that one more question. But meanwhile, I'll just flash the Discord server link here for the quiz that I mentioned earlier. Thanks, Frida. She's also posted the link on the chat. So you can either click on that link or scan this QR code to join. It's optional completely. With your consent, you can join the Discord channel to participate in the quiz. The quiz will be about the content we discussed today, just to see, bring it all back home that it was a good use of your time. You could take away the key aspects. And then if you have more questions, you can continue the discussion on Discord with us. Thanks. We have a lot of good interactive audience. We love to do this. We do this every month. And we also have in-person meetups in Bangalore and Singapore usually. Keep looking at our website on affinity.com/events to stay engaged. We're just getting started. There's a lot of stuff to build. I'll just leave it there. So I'm sure it will be great if I had triggered a lot of questions because that's what we expect and there's a lot to build. So we'll continue building that with your feedback. Keep sharing what you need. Love to interact on a use case with you. So thank you for your time. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.